One of my favorite writers and comedians is actually my neighbor, Ricky Gervais.
Ah, my God.
Yeah, and his content and philosophy is interesting. I'm a big fan, so I actually watch all the stuff he talks about too. And he talks about this concept that writers should own the work. Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about that? What's your view on that universe?
Help me define that. Own the work.
So, for example, he wrote The Office. Right,
yes.
and then it did quite well in England, and then he sold the rights to The Office to the US, and they did kind of what you just said there about digital monsters. They kind of repurposed it for the American market, with American nuances to working in an office. So basically, he's written the content. He's the creator and the producer, and then eventually he can syndicate it, and he's not. Yes. In other words, he's not necessarily working for. He's working for Netflix, at the end of the day, because they're the broadcaster for his recent show. But in a way, he's also independent, so he can create the content. Yes. He can create whatever content he wants, and they'll just put it on their platform because it will create lots of views and lots of interest. So I feel like the part of the question I'm asking too is the dynamic of a writer changing? Are you getting more power? Because I feel like 20 years ago, maybe when you started your career, in a way, you were working for someone else and that you needed them. But now with all these abilities to put stuff out there, is that changing?
Oh, definitely. I think, on a personal level, but it's also where you are in the industry. So, for people who aren't familiar, television is a writer's medium and film is more of a director and a producer's medium. So in television, the writer is king. So even if you're this shit kicker staff writer in your first year on a TV show, at least when I started, you were on set, you were the voice of the executive producers, and you really had a lot of ownership over your own episode. Even if you did not create the show, in the ideal world, it's still your voice, it's still a story you pitched, it's still, world and characters you brought to life, and you're on set, on the ground, making it all happen.
I've suddenly got this image of all these actors coming up to you and saying, please don't kill off my character. You must have the power to write them out, so, but like, oh no.
Yeah, well, that would be, yes, like the showrunner. And yes, it does create a lot of anxiety among the writer cast, especially if you're one of those shows known for, like, as a
Game of Thrones, where you're like, oh my, yes, I'm out, exactly. Oh no.
That's right. Massive helicopter crash. Who made it? Tune into next season to see. And, you don't know. Let's keep it a big old secret. Let me see. What were we going on?
Oh, sorry, that's my fault for interrupting you mid-flow. Sorry.
No. Oh, that's right. You were talking about ownership, writers and ownership and having agency. So again, most of my career, I spent 17 years as a television writer, and ownership is everything to us. And I think it works a little differently in the British model, but in America, the showrunners are the writers. So you've created the show, you've sold it, you oversee all the aspects of it. Pre-production, production, you're running the writer's room, and you're on set, and so you hold the whole thing. And yes, and it gets sold, and but really it's your show, and you're sort of, you live and die by the success of your own show. And that's the model I was always used to, even if it wasn't my show necessarily that I was working on. I have run a show before, and but I think when I transitioned over to movies, I carry that same sense of agency. And in movies, it is very different, because it's mostly held by the directors, by the producers, and their writers are viewed as much more expendable. Like a writer comes in, well, that's not working out. Well, toss out that writer, bring in new writers with the idea of, like, I'll just keep throwing writers at it until, it works out. And, I have a very writer-centric point of view. I think there's a reason why we've been in the golden age of television for the last decade or so. When you look at the television landscape, the stories are amazing. They're tremendous. They're transporting. The level of writing, the level of storytelling is insane. And, for there to be some discrepancy between, the quality or level of storytelling in film and television is, horse shit. But again, it's an attitude, and it's a way the industry has sort of evolved. But I think the difference with me, coming into features, I've, as TV writers, you've spent your 10,000 hours just grinding in the trenches, getting story out. You're very collaborative. You're not precious about any ideas, and I think those are all like skill sets that, have sort of worked out well, not just for me, but for a lot of writers who've transitioned from television into film.